Good day, ma'am and sir. Our group number is Z2035. In today's video, we are presenting a qualitative study titled The Effects of the Law Enforcement Amidst COVID-19 Pandemic in Tagum City, together with my group member, John Gerald Batalan and Miko Campos. Introduction. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed some key obstacles for law enforcement related to the communications resources management, the enforcement of the public health restriction, and changes the crime and serves patterns. Based on these early initial responses and the obstacles during COVID-19 outbreak, the current papers highlight directions for the future responses to the pandemic to ensure the safety and the security of police officers and the communities they serve. The pandemic has had a hug of influence of law enforcement agencies and their activities as results of this enormous development to provide information the field about the patterns of the preparedness, changes in operations, training, adjustment, and the impact of the civilian workplace. Law enforcement faces a unique set of challenges on a daily basis. Society asks those who enforce the law to take the risks that can be minimized but not eliminated. Police officers are essential employees and the natures of their works involve frequent close contact with the members of the public, including the close physical contact with the initiated by the searches and the arrest. Even in a time of crisis, when many others are remaining at home, police and other law enforcement personnel like nurses, clerks, do not have the luxury of the teleworking. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly affected to the operational landscape of the policing. The police, along with the fire and the rescue first responders, have been on the front lines of the response, tending to medical emergencies, the managing the social sequences of the COVID-19, while at the same time providing the safety and the assurance of their communities. The risk of the exposures of the COVID-19 is high for the first responder, and some law enforcement officers have already succumbed to the disease. Stay-at-home orders have also changed the people's routines, impacting of the crimes, disorders, traffic incidents, and other events to which officers routinely respond. In the Philippines, according to the Philippines News Agency 2021, the Philippine National Police (PNP) has faced an extraordinary battle this year, including against an unseen enemy, which is the coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 pandemic. Police officers are the first responders to deal with the public during high-risk situations. There is always a threat of the violence towards them. However, COVID-19 has presented a new threat to them as they, like any other citizens, are the risk of being exposed to this virus. The difference is that police, much like other essential services such as the health professionals, fire paramedics, and other most respond to calls, which in the most cases means dealing with the unknown situations as cases continue to rise. The government has ordered police to accompany medics of the transfer any affected patients to the isolation facilities. Citizens have also been encouraged to report any infected neighbors in hiding. Research objective. In general, this study is simply describe the police officers and the citizens' experiences about law enforcement during this pandemic. Only in Tagum City, the first-hand experience of our participants and their insight on the emergence of this phenomenon are also disclosed in the study. Hence, the following research questions were formulated in order to obtain the substantial content of this phenomenological study. What are the experiences of the police officers and law enforcement during COVID-19 pandemic in Tagum City? Second, how do police officers cope with the emerging challenges in the law enforcement during COVID-19 pandemic in Tagum City? The third, what is the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic to the law enforcement through enforcing the law?
This study is anchored on the theory of Ferguson effect, coined by St. Louis Police Chief Sam Dodson in a 2015 column in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and later developed by Heather McDonald in 2015. The Ferguson effect is a theoretical rise in violent crime rates in a community caused by proactive policing as a result of the community distrust and anger against police. Doyle Sam Dodson III, the chief of St. Louis Police Department, used the word to describe a spike in murder rates in various youth the communities following the Ferguson uprising. In relation to our study, this theory about law enforcement talk about the hostile experience of police in all areas, national or local in the Philippines, from citizens due to poor policing during COVID-19. This theory that we anchored our study is from Ibanez social control theory, which states that the society has the capacity to decide how to prevent crime, enforce rules, provide good and stable environment, and many more. Our study focused on effect of law enforcement amidst COVID-19 pandemic, and this theory enabled to have societal view how and why the changes occurred. The change of time, policing, and situation created a big change and influence on the law enforcement. Hence, society plays a major role in determining the perceived safety and risk of individuals during these trying times. Thus, these theories provide a vital role in giving coherent understanding of our study and providing good grounds to support our literature. Our study gleaned also on the concept of the new role of law during pandemic in the Philippines. Philippines launched an ECQ on March 21, 2020, which was prolonged until May 31, before being lowered to a general community quarantine on June 1. This concentrates set forth in the Constitution, Article 4, Section 23, and relevant international law guide this and other emergency action. On March 25, the Philippine Congress passed Republic Act 11469, commonly known as the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, which grants the Philippine Presidential Emergency powers to deal with the COVID-19 situation for 3 months unless extended or cancelled early by Congress. These changes affect the law enforcement on all over the Philippines, including local policies. Hence, there were many adjustments and challenges happened to the national and local police.
Methodology. This chapter discusses about the methodology used in our study, which include the research participant, materials, instrument, design, and procedure. Research participant. The target respondent to be associated with are required to have the experience with the law. Hence, the police officers that serve as a main qualification for the respondent select. There will be 14 gather respondent to reduce the risk of undergoing bias group. The number of participants will also enhance the precision of the researcher estimated and assist the power of the study to draw conclusion. To gather the participant, voluntary response sampling, a technique in which the sample made up of participants who have voluntarily chosen to participate as a part of the sample group. Although this sampling technique may be biased, it is more affordable and easier to conduct the researcher. Material instrument. In this study, we should online and face-to-face interview. The online interview will be conducted virtually via Google Meet, and the link will be disseminated through the various social network site or SNS. The respondent will be directed to a new tab with the researcher. Introduction and purpose of the study were discussed before asking the participant in online and face-to-face interview. The addition to that, a consent form will also be distributed along the questionnaire as a form of agreement between the researcher and the actual respondent. And also, in data analysis, the data processing step was the most complex and difficult of all the phases of a qualitative study. The researcher studied as a series of processes and procedure based on the obtained data in order to provide an explanation, understanding, or interpretation of the individual or circumstances they were examined. As a result, we employ thematic analysis in our research. A data set such as a series of interview of or focus group transcript is studied to a thematic analysis which look for meaning pattern. It also analyzes a massive volume of data and group them into themes based on their similarities. Their themes help us to make a sense of text and derive meaning from it.